All right, it's my pleasure to introduce our next panel, and we will hear from them in the order that I'm going to introduce these gentlemen. Our first speaker will be Jean Bourgeois, from the Provost of Texas State University. Jean is the Chief Academic Officer of the university, of course, and as such is responsible for coordination and quality of the university's academic and research programs. He's been with the university since 1990, starting as an assistant professor of history, 10 years later becoming chair of the department, and then becoming associate provost in 2006. Jean earned a bachelor's and a master's in history from LSU. So now that the Aggies are in the SEC, we have something to discuss.
October 20th.
As well as a PhD. I mean, he's keeping track of it. I'm good. I'm glad. And his PhD is from the University of Cambridge, Clare College, where he and his wife lived for 3 years in London. So kind of jealous of that experience. Our second speaker will be Dr. Paul Matney, who was named president of Amarillo College in 2009 after serving as acting president for 14 months. Amarillo College was founded in 1929 and now enrolls 11,500 academic students and 26,000 in continuing education. Amarillo College was also recently named an Achieving the Dream school. He's in his 32nd year of service with the Amarillo College, but this is interesting. He also spent 19 years as a part-time television weathercaster for 2 TV stations in Amarillo. Now, I know that is immediately what you think of when you think of higher education, but so maybe some Al Roker stories. Paul earned his Bachelor of Journalism from UT here in Austin and a Master of Arts degree in speech from West Texas A&M University and a Doctor of Education from Texas Tech University. So you touched at least 3 of the systems there. And finally, Dr. Mark Milliron, the Chancellor of the Western Governors University, Texas, will be our cleanup batter. Western Governors University, Texas, as many of you know, is an innovative nonprofit university established to provide Texas citizens affordable, accredited, rigorous, and relevant online degree programs. Prior to taking his position as chancellor, he served as deputy director for post-secondary improvement with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Mark has received numerous corporate, nonprofit, and education-related awards and serves on boards in all of those fields. He is an award-winning leader, author, speaker, and consultant, well known for exploring leadership development, future trends, learning strategies, and the human side of technology change. In 1999, he was named a distinguished graduate by the University of Texas College of Education. And he is known for and has received awards for his work in leadership, advancing innovative technology, use of innovative technology in education. His bachelor's and master's in organizational communication are from Arizona State, and he has a doctorate of philosophy and educational administration from UT Austin. Please welcome these 3 panelists, and we'll start with Jean.
Thank you, Chairman Heldenfels, Commissioner Paredes, for allowing me to share with you some of the many cost efficiency strategies underway at Texas State University, which continues to be among the state's leading 4-year public institutions of higher ed regarding student access and student success. We are the state's newest emerging research university and now enrolling over 34,000 students. We are a Hispanic serving institution, and we count among our undergraduate students more than 40% who are first generation and nearly 40% who are Pell Grant eligible. Our strategic planning process prioritizes initiatives that help deliver high-quality education more efficiently and effectively, underscoring our institution's commitment to sound stewardship of public resources. Tomorrow's sessions include a panel on strategic planning and resource allocation, and I give a nod to it because practicing highly disciplined strategic planning and resource allocation fundamentally underpins all of our cost efficiency initiatives. Today I'll highlight a few strategies for each of the following areas: instructional efficiencies, administrative efficiencies, and collaborative efforts. In the area of instructional efficiencies, We have been leading the state in semester credit hours produced per faculty FTE. The most recently available data show Texas State with SCH to faculty FTE of 421, the highest in the state, and 50 SCH higher than the second-ranked institution. This efficiency is a result of increasing class sizes and strategically allocating funds for instructional positions. I should note that there is a fine line that a provost walks between maximizing efficiency and maintaining excellence in the classroom. When you reach an SCH to FTE of 421, you're close to a tipping point, and that's something I worry about almost every night. 3 strategies have helped faculty intervene more aggressively to assist their students in academic difficulty. We implemented an automated process for faculty to report satisfactory academic progress for the Academic Texas Success Initiative, TSIP, progress. And faculty use Academic Early Alert and Pause Alert. These are both web-based early warning initiative programs to identify students in difficulty and to refer them to the appropriate campus services in order to be more successful. We employ a very robust and effective digital learning environment for our students. An early adopter and contributor to the development of the Sakai project, an open software-based learning management system, we have created our own Teaching, Research, and Collaboration System, or TRACS, learning management system to enhance classroom instruction or to deliver distance learning by bringing course materials, class discussions, assignments, and quizzes to the web. Approximately 90% of all of our course sections currently taught at Texas State have a dedicated TRACS website. Now, picking up on some earlier talk about developmental education, I want to point out one very innovative and new program. It's an immersion program for math developmental education. The acronym is FOCUS. It's Fundamentals of Conceptual Understanding and Success. The Center for Mathematics Readiness at Texas State has developed this new and innovative approach to demonstrating college readiness in mathematics. In this program, students receive support and develop academic skills as they register for and as they complete collegiate level mathematics. In other words, they're in the math class. And additional work and additional assistance is given to them so that they're not in a developmental ed math class. As such, the need for developmental mathematics registration and enrollment is reduced. In the area of administrative efficiencies, we have closed low-producing programs, of which we had had very few to begin with. Based on the 2011 report, the university chose to phase out 3 programs, and we received temporary exemption on 6 others. In the 2012 report, no additional low-producing programs were noted. It's our strategic planning process and the connected method of allocating resources for new programs and to sustain existing programs that have helped mitigate inefficient programs. We have increased the use of existing facilities by developing class schedules that utilize more hours throughout the week, accommodating an increasing enrollment that has risen sharply from 25,000 in 2002 to over 34,000 this fall semester in 2012. Classrooms and labs are being used from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. during the week. In terms of classroom and laboratory utilization, the coordinating board reported that Texas State achieved an overall score, space usage efficiency score of 200, the highest possible score, on a campus that does not currently use a centralized classroom assignment system when classrooms are initially booked. That said, efficient as we can get, basically, we just received the recommendations of a task force that identified some available capacity weekdays at 8 a.m. and between 5 and 6:20 p.m. and on Friday afternoons that I am now addressing. To further improve 8 a.m., so remember I'm in charge of faculty. That will be fun. To further improve retention and graduation rates, we have created a new personalized academic and career exploration, or PACE Center, for our freshmen. Its professional academic advisors are committed to ensuring that full-time students' course workload is 30 semester credit hours or more per calendar year. Freshmen who receive personalized academic advising and career counseling in this new PACE Center this fall registered for an average of 15 SCH this fall, a significant increase in my book from the 14 SCH a year ago. Furthermore, in the PACE Center, all incoming freshmen are required to complete an educational degree plan during their first year on campus. Freshmen in this PACE program must meet with an academic advisor during summer orientation and again in the fall and spring to develop class schedules for subsequent academic terms. PACE freshmen are prohibited from making changes to their class schedules during the summer, fall, and spring without the approval of a PACE academic advisor. Lastly, in the area of collaborative partnerships, we have created a Center for P16 initiatives to lead our efforts to work more closely with local and regional P12 school systems to improve teacher effectiveness and college readiness, and to create a college-going culture and transparent pathways for students to become ready for college and career. Since 2009, we've worked with thousands of students and families in the Central Texas area in direct and outreach programming, including the Gen Tex campaign that is part of the broader College Access Challenge Grant Initiative. Our partners include the E3 Alliance, ACC, 15 area high schools, and middle school counselors. We have been a state leader in collaborating more closely on transfer issues. We have developed transfer planning guides. These guides give prospective transfer students detailed, and I mean very, very detailed, down to the course for every academic semester, detailed institutional and major specific information regarding the courses they need to take for their degree and their intended major by catalog year, by two-year feeder institution. They've been developed now for our top 20 two-year feeder institutions and their matching and our matching degree programs. To date, we have over 1,600 planning guides in place, and we're developing more. Furthermore, we have over 7,000 other evaluated courses from 2- and 4-year institutions on file that are maintained to assist transfer students. All of these resources are available within 3 clicks from the university's homepage. And I should also point out, we're also participating in the very significant Tuning Texas initiative. Thank you. I'll be happy to try to answer any specific questions you may have about these and other Texas state efficiency initiatives. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this afternoon and share some of the things that we're doing at Amarillo College that may be innovative to us. I rather imagine you're doing some of the same things. It may not be terribly innovative to you, but really enjoy the opportunity to tell you what we're doing up on the high plains of Texas. When Fred introduced me as a former television weatherman, I'm always reminded of a story. Another thing I used to do as a much younger man is umpire a lot of baseball games, a lot of high school, some college baseball games. And I remember, Fred, one day I was working a game in Canyon, Texas. That's just south of Amarillo. And I was working the plate. It was between innings. I'd moved down the third base line. The pitcher was finishing his warm-up tosses. And I heard this fan yell out at the top of his voice. He said, "Matney, you're a 2-time loser, an umpire and a weatherman." That's a good line. That's a good line. I really thought it was. All of us in here in higher education are having to create a new normal. You're doing it in your way, we're doing it in our way, and you know, we don't know what that new normal is going to look like because we're always in the process of creating a new normal. But one of the things that we're having to do is work both sides of the budget. We are having to, of course, look for ways to increase revenue and cut expenditures. You've all done that. We had significant state appropriation reductions in formula, but also community colleges especially got hit in our retirement contributions from the state and our group health insurance contributions. So we're not having any pity parties, but we are having to create a new normal. One of the things that we're doing at Amarillo College, we have 2 branch campuses. One campus began in 2000. That's in Dumas. That's about 40 miles north of Amarillo. And another campus began in 2005 in Hereford, Texas. That's about 45 miles southwest. Now, a lot of these students would not have an opportunity for a higher education had we not developed these branch campuses. But those citizens of those communities had to vote themselves a maintenance tax. The legislature has capped it at $0.05 per $100 valuation. Our taxpayers in Amarillo, the college taxpayers, pay just shy of 20 cents per $100 valuation. So we really have to look for ways to be very efficient on those campuses. One of the ways that we've done that in Hereford is look for private, and Dumas, look for private-public partnerships. And I noticed that Dr. Jordan was talking about that, I believe, up in Denver and so forth. But the way we've done that in Hereford, we've been operating for years in a mothballed elementary school that we have been leasing from the Hereford Independent School District. And it has worked quite well, but we're simply out of space. So we looked for an opportunity to create a capital campaign in Hereford. The college was willing to take some reserves and put into that campus, but we needed to create some more capital for that. But unfortunately, about that time, the recession hit. Cattlemen were selling cattle, farmers weren't making crops, and that simply was not going to be an option. So I'll never forget when the mayor of Hereford called me early September of last year and said, "Paul, I want to introduce you to a gentleman. He's from Arizona, but he's in Hereford, and he wants to create a memorial to honor the memory of his deceased wife and her first husband." My response was, "Really?" But he brought this gentleman over, and 3 weeks later, he handed me a cashier's check for $3 million to help us with this campus. Never forget that. So there's an example. Maybe it was manna from heaven, but we used that. We used college funds. Also, the Hereford Economic Development Corporation bought the land for that campus and gifted it to us. And also, the city of Hereford spent about $1 million in paving and infrastructure, drainage, those kinds of things. And we just received word that we've received an economic disaster assistance grant, and that will help provide equipment for us to put complete programs, career and technical programs, such as welding, machining, industrial maintenance, renewable energy, professional truck driving operations, and utility power worker in that campus. So we think it's a good example of these public-private partnerships that we can look for. We did the same thing up in Dumas. We're building a new career and technical center there, and renewable energy is another program that they're very, very interested in. And so the Dumas Economic Development Corporation gave us land in their brand new industrial park. So there's another example. You know, I don't know about my colleagues. What has really worked well for us are Texas Workforce Commission, TWC Skills Development Fund grants. Back in 1999, when Bell Helicopter was looking for a location to put in an assembly plant to assemble their V-22 Osprey, they came to Amarillo. And of course, the college works very closely with their Economic Development Corporation talking about workforce training. And they decided to come because there was a community college, much like yours, in the community that was ready, willing, and able to train the workforce. Bell Helicopter has been there since 1999. They're doing extremely well. They've produced and assembled a lot of V-22 Osprey, which is working quite well in theater, both Iran and Afghanistan now. And there are about 1,400 employees there. About 400 of those employees have a 2-semester aerospace manufacturing certificate earned at Amarillo College. And Dr. Paredes, you were talking, as were others today, about these accelerated job training programs, training for jobs. There's an example. We're also looking for ways for stackable credentials, whether it's a certified nursing assistant, whether it is training wind turbine technicians with a beginning certificate, an advanced certificate, which then goes into an associate degree, whether it's a utility power worker. We're building, Sherryland is building a big transmission line just west of Amarillo up in the Panhandle. It's going to cross over north, and it will tie into the energy markets in Dallas and Fort Worth, San Antonio and Austin, perhaps Houston. And so we, along in partnering with Xcel Energy, our electric company, and rural electric cooperatives, received a lot of equipment and opportunities for students to do internships in a utility power worker program to not only train linemen, but also people to work with distribution units, with substations, and so forth. We needed a sonography program. Our medical community in Amarillo needed registered sonographers. And they came to the college and they said, look, we've got to figure out a way to do this. But we kind of had a catch-22. We needed a registered sonography program in Amarillo because we had no registered sonographers. But we couldn't put a registered sonography program at the college because we had no registered sonographers. Because those of you in healthcare know that for clinicals, you have to operate, your students have to work with a registered sonographer. So we batted that around literally for years. Finally, the hospital stepped in, we got together. Each of our major hospitals gave us $50,000 to start that program. We got a wonderful JET grant from the State Comptroller's Office for $100,000, much like many of your colleges have gotten. And so there was the seed money, and now we have a registered sonography program that is just doing beautifully. It began training incumbent radiographers in this subspecialty, and now then it's morphed into an associate degree open enrollment program. So there's another example, I think, of building relationships and partnerships with business in the community. We've done the same thing with Northwest Texas Hospital to train advanced nurses training. But again, those skills development fund grants that have been very, very good. And I can't tell you how not dependent necessarily, but how appreciative we are with our Amarillo Economic Development Corporation that has funded startup money for renewable energy, both wind and solar, for machining, for utility power worker, and for a robotics program, and even a machining program to train CNC operators in machining. Very quickly, we have partnered with our independent school district in what is known as a no excuses university concept. Maybe you've heard of that. Young elementary principal in California a number of years ago began a program where he said every one of our children, pre-K through 5th grade, will have an expectation of going to college. We now have 10 schools in our school district that are No Excuses University, and we are partnering with them at Amarillo College. And we have seen these young elementary kids inspire their parents, and these are schools in low socioeconomic areas. They have inspired their parents to come to us for GED training. And we have those parents that have earned that GED then matriculate into a college program. I promise you, we really are changing lives through this wonderful concept. I love the sign out in front of these elementary schools. Our kids are going to college. It's a wonderful program, and it's worked well with us. We're doing the same thing you're doing. We're expanding tutoring. We're doing course redesign in 5 gateway courses in biology, in math, in English. We're also adopting, as many of you have, the first-year experience course, teaching students how to be successful in college. Our developmental education, we're looking for accelerated ways. Why put a student and tie them up for 16 weeks in a beginning algebra class, 0 level, no credit, when we can spend 2 weeks with them in an intensive study camp, teach them what they need to know, let them test, and then move on in their academic pathway. And we've developed a poverty initiative. We've been working with Dr. Donna Beagle. She is an expert, national expert in generational poverty. And 60% of our students at our college are Pell eligible. We teach a lot of poor kids. And we've decided that the more our faculty, the more our employees know about what it's like to be from a family of poverty, the more we can do everything in our power to remove as many barriers as possible to help them be successful in completing their certificate or degree. My last comment will be this. We don't have a lot of higher education institutions up on the high plains of Texas. There's Amarillo College, there's our friends at Frank Phillips College in Borger, and our friends at Clarendon College down in the southeastern Panhandle. A year ago in November, we got the 3 presidents together and we said, look, as we are all seeking a new normal, why don't we get together and stand shoulder to shoulder and hold a news conference and announce to our communities that we're going to do everything we can working together as 3 institutions to provide as many educational opportunities for citizens up on the high plains as possible. And we did that. And what has come of that? Well, we have had faculty and advisors visit and hold meetings on all 3 campuses. We are sharing now professional development opportunities. We have shared course redesign with our colleagues. We have invited Frank Phillips to come to our branch campuses in Dumas and Borger to teach cosmetology. There's no need for Amarillo College to begin a cosmetology program, but there was a need in those communities. Frank Phillips does a very good job of that. So we invited them into our service area to do that. And we're inviting Clarendon into Amarillo to produce that same program. It really is working well. The time was right to do that. And that's a collaborative agreement that is yielding for us great benefits. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know I'm between you and the round table, so we'll move through this quickly. It's my job to explain a bit about WGU Texas, Western Governors University, Texas, and talk a little bit about some of our key initiatives that have focused on continuous quality improvement. I'm used to explaining things that are difficult. In fact, I just published an article in the Chronicle of Higher Ed reflecting on our first year at WGU Texas, and my opening line was, WGU is a hard institution to describe to your mother, much less your hip sister. I come from a big rowdy family. I've had to explain to a lot of folks. I actually come from a family of 9 kids. I have an African-American brother, a Native American brother, and a Korean sister. In addition to that, we had 25 foster kids who rotated through my house during the time I was growing up. My mom was a special needs nurse, and my dad was out of his mind. And trying to explain to photographers that this is our family at our weddings and other adventures has always been interesting. So I've been well equipped to enter the Texas ecosystem and talk about Western Governors. Western Governors University, I served on the board for about 6 years and watched the growth of the national university. It was founded 15 years ago by the Western States governors to try to combine efforts, to try to figure out ways to create affordable, accessible models for higher education that would leverage both technology and a focus on competency-based learning or learning-centered progression, which the idea of learning-centered progression is not new. It's proficiency-based, mastery-based kind of learning, but the way of deploying it was unique. Nationally, Western Governors University now has about 36,000 students in all 50 states. Been accredited probably more than any of the online universities, 4 major regional accreditations and all the programmatic accreditations, IT, business, education, and health. Very focused on the adult learner. The WGU Texas model is one of our 3 state universities where we take the work of the national university and bring it into a state. And part of our challenge in unpacking the model within a state is dealing with issues of conflation. And what I mean by conflation is a few things. One, people assume because you're online, you must be a for-profit. And when we try to convince them that we actually are a nonprofit and we have flat fee tuition of less than $6,000 a year, and that's for accelerated progression of fully full-time students, they just can't kind of get their minds around that, and it's kind of interesting to watch people wrestle with that. They also assume that we are focused on trying to recruit all kinds of students, in particular right from high school students, and we try to let them know we are radically focused on what we call the independent achiever adult student. Average age is 36. Our real range is between 25 and 55. We are especially focused on people who are working full-time, who want to go full-time. And that's another one of the conflations, is people assume that we're just taking traditional education and putting it online with adjunct faculty. We are 100% full-time students and 100% full-time faculty. Our goal is to use faculty to engage deeply with the students, and we have a mentor-driven model where the students have a full-time mentor that takes them from first contact to completion. It's a deeply personalized model. They meet with their mentor every single week, and they progress in a very different kind of fashion. So trying to explain this to folks and help them understand this is not intended at all for people who are trying to find their way in higher ed or for the right from high school student that wants to have a campus-based experience. It is radically focused on adult strivers that know what that next credential is and where they can go. And we in particular like transfer students from community colleges and how we work. As we've been, and the other real defining characteristic, by the way, of Western Governors University, WGU Texas, is the fact we are radically data-driven. In fact, I would call us probably a Moneyball organization. We look at data nonstop to hone our processes. And it's one of the ways we've been able to keep our tuition as low as we kept it. We have not raised tuition in 5 years, and we are focused on trying to increase productivity and then putting that cost savings back into the model so we can keep tuition low. I'm just going to give you 3 big ideas about how we do our work and how that plays out and how we keep that financial kind of undergirding for our work. One is thinking about our partnerships with folks like the community colleges in the state. As we launched in the state, we developed an articulation agreement with all 50 of the community colleges that we called Finish to Go Further, because when we looked at the data, what we found is the modal student transferring in Texas was transferring before they got their credential, and they were transferring with between 30 and 40 hours. Our data showed that if we could get a student to transfer after the associate's degree, they were by far the most likely to finish the bachelor's degree with us. And so and also our data showed from the work with Gates and others that low-income students on degree pathways were best served by achieving momentum points, and degree completion along the way, credential completion was a momentum point. So we developed the Finish to Go Further program where we fully articulated with the community colleges, and the goal was to incent the students to finish the associate's degree before they transfer. So what we do is when a student comes into us, we tell them that if they want to transfer to us, we encourage them to finish their associate's degree first, and if they do, we give them a 5% tuition discount on already low tuition, and we give them access to a whole range of scholarships for associate degree grads called the Finish to Go Further scholarships. They can't have access to any of those scholarships until they have the associate's degree. The whole goal is to incent them to finish before they go on and they continue with us. It is a win for our partner institutions because it incents students to finish at the community college so their completion rates go up. It's a win for us because our data show us that a student that comes in with the associate's degree is the most likely to finish the bachelor's degree, so it doesn't make any sense for us to incent the other model. And third, it's a real win for that student because the data shows that the momentum points for them allow them to actually accelerate and move on and be more successful. So even in developing our partnership around transfer articulation, we really took efficiency and productivity and quality in hand and thought about how we could develop it in the best way. Second big thing we've done. In all of our degree programs, we hone the competency map in partnership with industry and with academics. They collectively put together the competency or learning progression model for our students. We then go curate curricular resources that would help a student achieve those learning competencies and the assessments that go along with it. But one of the things we found is our students, because of the cost of curricular resources, textbooks and the like, they were not buying the textbooks so they could end run the process because they couldn't afford them. Anybody else having a problem with textbook costs? Yeah, big deal. And in particular, it was our low-income students that were doing this, and it was causing real challenges. Our data showed the students that were not purchasing the curricular resources were the least likely to complete with us. We said we have to tackle this problem, not to mention the cost issue was really hitting the students pretty hard. So we decided, and this was a big commitment, we decided to flip the model. And what we did is we said, instead of asking students to pay for their own curricular resources, we'll make the cost predictable for them, and we'll take the onus of negotiating that on the other side. And so now we have what's called a BYOD strategy, which is bring your own device. We've pushed to make all of our curricular resources digital and modular. And what we do is we tell the student, you pay $140 every term, and that covers all your curricular resources, regardless of what program you're in or what subjects you're studying in that point in time. $140 no matter what. And then that puts the onus on us to go to the publishers and negotiate contracts. So that incented us to get kind of tough with the publishers. And the first thing we said is we want our content digital and we want it modular, so we only pay for what we use, which was a good conversation. More and more publishers are now offering those kinds of things. And by the way, the data shows you can decrease cost to students by almost 50% by just doing that. Second thing we did, which is profiled in Inside Higher Ed, is we went to the publishers and said, they're really nervous about all the open content and free content that's out there right now. And we use some of that. We use Carnegie Mellon's statistics course and some stuff from MIT and Stanford. And they were really worried that we were going to do this in a big way. And they said, you know, our stuff is higher quality. We curate more effectively. It's definitely something that's connected to your competency maps. We want to make sure we can continue working with you. And we said, we do too. How about this? How about we pay you for your content when the student passes the assessment that they were using that content to prepare for? And the publishers took a big gulp, and the first one to really bite at this, by the way, was McGraw-Hill, and then Cengage after that, and we've been working with Pearson on finishing the contracts with that, but they ended up saying yes. Because the truth is, if they believe in their content, they should be okay with a pay for performance on their part, not just on the student's part, right? Or on our part and how we do it. The thing I love about this, and why I think it's even more powerful as a CQI technique, is it creates a structural incentive for the publishers to fix bad content. Right? If they're not going to get paid for content that is not quality, they're going to go back and try to fix that content, which we didn't have that kind of incentive before. We had to negotiate in the total, so it allowed for a different kind of resource. Our goal is to create a master playlist of curricular resources that we know has the best chance of helping a student achieve the outcomes and pass the assessment. So it's kind of a good thing, right? And again, it's data-driven and it's focused on the quality side, and it radically reduces costs for the students and makes their progression predictable. Third big idea is this idea around we've committed ourselves to repositioning our data to the front lines. Most data initiatives in higher education, I would argue, are far too slow and they're off target, right? How many of you shop at Amazon? How long does it take Amazon to get data about you and then give you recommendations about what else you should do next? Like a week or a month, and no, it happens in under a second. It only takes longer because of your bandwidth, right? And do they send you crosstabs and spreadsheets and things like that? No, they actually send you concrete recommendations about what you should do next. Our real goal was to figure out how we could have that kind of velocity. Because by the time we in higher ed collect data about students and do something with it, it's painful, right? Our basic story is we say, we're really interested in, and we're worried about our retention and dropout rates. Let's get a committee together and study it. We go study it and come back together and compare spreadsheets, and everyone argues about the quality of the data, right? Go collect some more data, come back together. We have another argument about the quality of the data. Then it's we got to bring in faculty. Faculty come in, they're mad you didn't include them from the beginning. You got to start all over. You go back out and collect some more information. You bring that back together. You say, boy, this is really painful data. Let's bring it up to the senior administration. Senior administration looks at it and says, boy, you're right. This is hard data. We got to make sure that we're not the worst in the state. Let's get some comparative data from other colleges to find out how we fit. So they have to get permissions from other colleges to figure out how their retention rates to other colleges' retention. That takes a few months to get those permissions. You get those permissions, and now you bring it to the president. The president says, we want to do something about this, but we really should show it to the board. So now you have to get on the board calendar. You get on the board calendar, you present to the board doesn't understand what you're talking about, it takes a few sessions to educate them on what it is, and they say, this is important, you got to hire somebody to lead this initiative, so now you have to do a search. You do a search to hire somebody to come in, and their first recommendation is to buy software to tackle the problem, which means you now have to do an RFP to bring in a company to buy the software to help you do this. What has happened to the students about whom you collected the data? Yeah, their kids have enrolled in your institution, right? Okay. I would argue that, and a lot of people are saying this, that most of our data initiatives in higher education are too slow and they're off target. We are generally producing data for legislators, administrators, and trustees when the best use of that data would be getting it right to the front lines so that teachers and students could tune the learning experience most effectively. And things we do is we do coaching reports and dashboards for every one of our mentors. They have weekly intervention sessions with every one of their students, and they look at, are they on target or are they off target, right? How many of you have a young person in your life that plays a video game? Okay. How much time and effort will they put in to go from one level of a video game to another level of the video game? Yeah, they'll wipe themselves out, right? What the video game people, by the way, what they have to do is demonstrate knowledge, skills, and ability at one level to be able to progress to the next level, which kind of sounds like competency-based progression, right? Or learning-centered progression. But one of the things the gamers have figured out is if you don't engage the gamer every 15 to 30 seconds, you lose them. In other words, if you don't tell them if they're on target or off target, they generally end up walking away from the game. Think about how long it is before our students get data that tells them they're on target or off target in their studies. What we have found is the faster we get data directly to students to tell them they're on target or off target, the better it'll be. And so we've developed these coaching reports. There's a great article that talks about this in EDUCAUSE Review and unpacks how we do this, but every week the students and the faculty connect on are they on target or off target and how they can actually progress and move forward. It has helped us in the last 3 years improve first-year retention from 60% to 80%. It has been a big move for us, and the whole idea is getting data right to the front lines, and it's been one of our 3 big ideas. Lots of other stuff we can talk about, but the interesting thing for us is we are deeply committed to the idea of using data not for data's sake, but to use data to make sure we can inform learning decisions that improve quality and also improve productivity so that more students can learn more effectively. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark. I think we have time for Couple questions for any of our panelists, if there are any in the audience. Mary has the microphone. Don't be shy, raise your hand high. We heard a lot of good ideas. I think I'd believe Paul if he said it was going to rain tomorrow. Anyone have any questions? Right here at the front table.
Hi, I have a question for Mark. Can you say a little bit more about your faculty? Like what ratio, how many students are they working with, and are they, what are their backgrounds?
Yeah, so we're fully accredited, so all of our faculty have to meet accreditation standards, and especially in the course mentors level, they're almost all PhDs. We actually have to do some pretty hardcore screening for our faculty, but we have not had a problem finding them. We have close to 800 faculty nationally. We're going to be hiring about 150 just within the state. Our goal is to find people that are specialists in one of two areas. Most faculty in higher ed are general practitioners. They do everything from setting learning outcomes to finding curricular resources, developing assessments, delivering instruction, doing research, all that. We try to find two kinds of specialists as opposed to general practitioners. One kind of specialist for us is a student mentor. The student mentor carries a caseload of between 40 and 60 students, and they take them from first contact to the end of their degree program, and they're basically kind of the Oxford model of a faculty, where they're their faculty advisor for the entire range, and they help them synthesize, analyze, serve as a career coach, and also as a real, in many ways, an academic coach through the program. The second, they generally have a master's degree or a PhD. So again, accreditation standards. And then we've got the course specialists, who are almost all PhDs, are specialists in specific program areas related to the competency map. So for example, if you're in information assurance, cybersecurity, and you're going to be talking about network administration, security protocols, we'll have a PhD in that area who will be coming in and working with you on that, for the student on that topic. So at any given time, you have your student mentor and your course mentor working with you on the topic you're studying. It's important to remember, because we're focused on adult learners, one of the things we've learned is adult learners, the number one reason they drop out is because life happens, right? Kids get sick, car breaks down, money runs out. And one of the most important things is we make them go full time. And it's very hard for them to go full time if they have to take 5 courses at the same time. So what we've basically done is flip that like this, where they can do 1 or 2 things at a time. And for people with complicated lives, this model works. They can focus, because with the kids and work and everything else, they can focus on 1 or 2 key academic challenges at a time and really nail it, and then they can progress. Most of our students accelerate. A typical student on a bachelor's path gets through in about 36 months as opposed to 60 months, which is the national average. So if you're trying to save money with time, right, you can do it that way. And our master's programs typically are 30 months for a national average. Ours are around 22 to 23 months. So the idea is the big idea is for them to be able to slow down when they need to and accelerate when they need to, and more importantly, to reward people who are going to work twice as hard as somebody else, as opposed to making them sit in seats for 16 weeks.
Other questions? All right, if that's it.